Dunamis Woman and Real Awesome Men International Ministries. I am Pastor D, and this is Dunamis Woman and Rant Today. We are living in a day and in a season and a time that we need to deal with real life issues. So that's what this is all about. Real life, real talk, real issues, real people, serving a real God. So I have a great, phenomenal, powerful Dunamis woman in my midst right here on this show, and I would love for you to engage with us, because as you take your journey and your testimony, I want you to be here as well. But in the meantime, for this show, I have the one and only Kamisha Barrett. How are you?
I am good. I'm good.
I am so elated to have you here with me once again.
I am pleased to be here.
We had a great show last time.
We did.
Talking about relations and relationships and how we understanding that we are relational, loving, powerful women.
Yes.
One thing about being a woman is that we are givers of that which has been planted on the inside of us. We're recipients. We take in. You know, the man give us the sperm. What do? We
take it in.
We take it in. It's implanted. We let it go through the process that God has caused and originated for it to be nurtured, for it to grow, and then we birth it out and we give them a son or a daughter. And sometimes both, depending on that real awesome man. That's a whole other show.
It is.
However, we are a product of our father's sperma.
We are.
And every man is a product of the father's sperma. The idea of which he had to plant us man into the earth. So we are a product of that. That's why men and women are interdependent. I don't care about the homosexuality, the gay, the lesbianness, all this stuff that the enemy is utilizing to distort the relations. But we as women, we have to get some things together, because we are the birthing canal. We are the womb bearers. So if we've been given a lot of pain, we've been giving a lot of abuse, we've been given a lot of words and stuff that we were not created, which if a man calls you out of his name, it's only because he don't love himself.
Yes.
We've come to learn that.
We have.
Now, that don't feel good.
It does not. No, it does not.
You understand what I'm saying? But we're now allowing God to turn what Satan meant for evil around for our good and for his glory.
Absolutely.
If a man doesn't understand himself, he will go out there and do some things called betrayal, infidelity. And they bring us back. Oh, you ready for me, girl? You ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
And they don't understand. That's why, we can't let the sting of it there, because the Bible said, in all thy getting, get an understanding. So when you really understand that they didn't know what they were doing, because they didn't understand themselves, they didn't understand the value of who God gave them, not only in a woman, but the value and the power that's on the inside of them. That's how we end up hurting one another.
Absolutely.
A hurt man will hurt a woman, and a hurt woman will allow a man to do some things to hurt another woman. And the main thing that's in the equation is women hurting each other.
Yes.
A man can only do what you allow him to do. But in this case, we've experienced that. And you hear I say we.
Yes.
And if you want to be real with yourself, you probably have too. You've given yourself to someone, you've given them emotionally, you've given them your life, and I'm not just talking about maritally, because sometimes we enter a marriage before we even stand before the preacher and the judge.
Absolutely.
Because we've had the sexual relations, and we've had the investment of the emotions, and because we've had the care and all that, and I've given you my heart.
Yes.
And you gave that which I gave you to someone else, which betrayed me. Mishi?
Yes.
The base of betrayal. I have said enough for right now. I'm with you, girl.
Yes.
And I think I had to experience it just because of you. You're one of many.
One of many.
How was that? The base of betrayal. The initial process of understanding and finding those things out.
Oh, as we're speaking, I'm reminded of the first situation that I think I had just given birth to my third child. And I had come home. I don't even think I was home for about a week. And I had come home to find my husband sitting in the dark listening to music. And as he was sitting there, you know how you get this grip, feeling in your belly. And I'm like, I really don't know what's gonna happen, but okay. And he asked me to sit down because he had something to say to me. And so began that process of him telling me that he had actually slept with someone else. And of course, I did the same thing we as women do. We want to know the who, the when,
the what,
and all of those things, which are so just not important. But I went through that, and I remember in that moment, I felt nothing.
Yeah.
I went absolutely emotionally absent,
numb,
extremely,
because of the piercing.
Yes.
And I want to say this, I want you to continue on, but I want to interject this at that point, because you said it was really irrelevant. Now you see it as being irrelevant. But initially, the reason why we want to know the who, the why, the whens, and the wheres, and what, because the initial sword of betrayal breeds insecurity.
It does.
It makes me feel my value being diminished. And that's the therapeutic process. I want the women to know that's what's internally going on. I want the men to know. And that's not just, we're talking about men with women, but we got a lot of men who've been betrayed as well. So it's not just a one-sided thing. But it's that, what did I do? Where did I go wrong?
Exactly.
You're not saying that, but that's what the messages are going on inside. So that's what you were experiencing, and that's what the numbness was about, because it's still going in the subconscious of your mind.
It was. And you know what? Even with that, I also wanted to know, like, you know, what did I miss?
Yeah.
Where was I? What was I not, you know, paying attention to? I went through a series of those things. But that's not even the betrayal part. Yes, him actually sleeping with someone else. But when I say I was emotionally numb and dead, I was emotionally numb and dead. That later on that evening, because I had left the house, you know, trying to clear my head, that didn't work. I came back. And I remember him climbing into the bed with me. And the first thing, you know, he did was he wanted to touch me. He wanted to find, and I just laid there. And I was lifeless. And
he was still engaged.
I did.
You still had sexual intercourse with
I
him.
did.
And I'm not saying that to belittle. I want to point out these dynamics, because so many of us as women, we're still doing what is required of us, but fail to realize we're just going through the motion.
Exactly.
Your body was just there,
and my mind
and your emotions was
gone,
and you don't even know where it was. That's the whole point.
Gone.
But go ahead.
With tears rolling down my eyes. With him whispering in my ear, you know, saying to me, you know, I thought it would be a long time before we were able to even do this. He didn't even realize how absent I was. And for quite some time, I was silent. I didn't say much of anything. And he really didn't know what to do in that. Even he went through a thing saying, you know what, you know, go and do it, you know, to me to even it out. But even then, you know, I always had this innate feeling that when you, well, of course, when you know better, you do better. But I fear God in the sense that I said, man, if I go out and I do the same thing to you, I believe that God will get me far more worse than you, because I was the recipient of what had occurred. So I know what that feels like.
And when you know, when you really, first of all, what that feel like, I wouldn't want my enemy
to go through it at all.
Much less the person that I love. And that's what the betrayal brings to us, is because did you think about me? Did you think about? See, when Christ was doing it, he was thinking about the purpose of this. This is why I'm doing this, because I need somebody to betray me to get my people healed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You know, and that wasn't done to get you healed. That was done to break you down.
Yes.
But failed to realize what Satan meant for evil. Guess what? That's how God turned around. But you got to get to this point.
Exactly.
To understanding the good in that. Because you had to be wounded. I had to be wounded for somebody else's transgressions. But you can't be wounded for someone else's transgressions if you don't embrace the emotional healing aspect of it.
When I remember when I was going through this marriage, and I had made my initial phone call to you, and you were on the radio. And I remember turning my vehicle around, and I can't even remember what you were talking about, but all I wanted was prayer.
Yeah.
I needed prayer. And just the mere fact that you took the time to sit with me, even taking my information, saying I'm going to reach back out to you, and that probably meant more to me than anything, because even as a woman, I could not even connect to my own mother, and or anyone, you know. Or we have the girlfriends that always jump on the bandwagon. Yeah. Girl, we hate them too. So let's go get them. So, but that wasn't me. I didn't need that. I needed someone to really help me understand specifically what was going on, because it was this piercing hurt that I could not rid myself of. Even trying to go through it and process it, you know, talking with him, everything was dismissed. No, it wasn't like this, it was like that, you know. And he had it even broke down to a science where he wanted to explain to me, well, you know, it's different from when a woman cheats than when a man's cheating. I'm sitting there like, cheating is cheating, what do you mean? You know, and I'm like, it's not the fact that it's the betrayal that comes with that, because I know you weren't thinking about me. You weren't thinking about anything but yourself, you know, in that matter. And then the additional thing was, you wanted me to sit and accept the fact that because you came and you apologized in your own way, that it would just make everything else go away. And it wasn't until I got here to understand you couldn't have paid me and told me that I was going through this for somebody else, because I would have said she crazy and I'm not coming back, you know. And you know, much and like my, I was crazy. I did. I'm like, she tripping. I'm not, you know, much like my friend Lynetta said, I left 72 times. I'm not coming back up here. I said, this chick is off her rocker. But helping me understand that I went through what I went through for the sake of being able, I wouldn't have been imagined that I would be, let alone talking about relationships anyway, but talking to other women, even coinciding with men, or you know, or anything. But at the same time, that's where God was giving me rekindling the flame. I didn't even know how it wasn't even a fizzle anymore. But
you have to go through those things, and when you shift your paradigm, you understand that. That's why it's understanding your greatness, and the power you possess. Because when you understand that, it takes away the sting of it. See, you don't forget those things. Many people want to have Holy Ghost amnesia. You know what I'm saying? You know, and they're repressing some things that the enemy is now using, because most of our behaviors is out of our repressed thoughts. It is. So now I got to know that I know that this is going to work together for my good. That's out of my gnosko, my mind of what God is talking about, truth. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And so that is where I have to know that this is going to work together for my good. You know, and so that's what the impartation is about. That's why I love when you said, and we're going to go to a break, Nisha, because you said I couldn't rid myself. I could not. And so many women are trying to rid themselves, or they get back into another relationship, and now that person become victimized based upon the pain of what somebody else did. And that's the most of the reasons of why many relationships don't go to the place of where God has originated. We're going to come on back, because we're going to get into more details because of you could not rid yourself, and we're going to take it from there. Stay tuned. This is Dee Collins, Doing This Woman. Listen to this commercial, this testimonial, because it's just for you. I'll be right back.
I am a victim of childhood abuse as well as domestic violence, until by way of driving in a car one day, listening to Christian radio. There was a voice that I heard, and that voice came from a woman called Pastor D. I was hurting, I was confused, and I didn't know what to do. And I pressed my way to make a phone call. And when my call came through, I was able to speak to her, and the only things that I could say was I needed prayer. I didn't believe that God even wanted to deal with me at all. I thought I was used goods. I thought that I was not important and that I was forgotten. I didn't think that I was worthy of anything, because I could not see past my mistakes, never imagining them to be life lessons, learning lessons, never seeing that they would eventually be used as stepping stones. I'm still developing, I'm still growing, But I'm grateful because I'm not where I used to be. If you're hearing me right now, emotional healing is specifically for you who need to be put back together again. You are not the definition of anyone else. You are exactly who it is that God created you to be, who He made you to be. And if you don't know that, this is the perfect place for you to come, for you to discover that. This is the safest place for you to be, to express your heart, for you to see who you are, for you to see yourself as God sees you.
Well, welcome back to Dunamis Woman and Ram. Today I am Pastor D, and I'm just so excited about your future because I know that that testimonial you just heard bless you. So we want you to definitely join us, engage with us, because we are powerful women and we are journeying from our pains to our promises. And I am here again, and right now I'm going to continue on with Kamisha Barrett, but before that, you'll see the number on your screen. Dial it, call our office right now. If no one is there, leave a message, because I promise you, you have experienced some level of betrayal. But we have to get to the base of the thing in order for us to be elevated in God. So, Kamisha, yes. I honor you. I respect you, because the enemy tells us to keep silent
all the time
about these type of things. It's very difficult for the church to embrace, because so much of it is going on inside the church.
Yes.
Not because the church or the building is a bad thing. It's because we as people are hurting, and we keep victimizing one another. But we got to get to the root. We got to get to the base of why this thing took place in order for God to build me up.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And I think that a lot of things that we're rebuking the devil for, that we need to sit back and understand what God wants to do with this.
Exactly.
For me, for my good, and for His glory. Before we went to a break, you used the terms, I could not rid myself.
I did.
And oftentimes we as women, first of all, the enemy loves for us to keep gaps between one another, not come together. The reason why that is because it was through the betrayal of another woman, not the man, that hurt me. So you wasn't really thinking about what the man did, but who she was. And you know, this stuff starts with elementary school.
It does.
With your high school girlfriend. Now it may be 5th and 6th grade. You know, I mean, back in the day,
exactly.
It was high school, elementary school. But we're trying to rid ourselves from this. And you could not. So for you to actually trust and reach out to another woman, you know, such as myself, I commend you for that. Now, with that, I want to just speak because I heard your heart. And the only reason why I could hear your heart is because I was inflicted of that as well. But I had to go through my journey to really hear the heart. It wasn't just about, let me call you back to pray. I don't know if you remember. I came to your house.
Yes, you did.
Oh, girl, come on. Because of the urgency.
Yes.
I recognize that stuff will kill you.
Yes.
There's so many dead women walking, carrying the stench of this type of pain. Yes. We can get to the men later. But I'm talking about women today.
Yes.
So just coming there and coming there and seeing you. I wish I had a before and after picture.
You know what? You did. You came over, and I remember we sat at the little table. And as you and I were talking, I had never had an opportunity to share my heart, especially with someone that was listening or that could understand how to respond. You know, even as I mentioned before, you know, we all got our girlfriends that was like, you know, well, let's go get them. We don't care, and, you know, and all of that. But at that particular time, that's not what I needed.
Yeah.
I really, even having gone through what I went through, I was still trying to figure out, well, how do I correct this? How do I make this work? And you know, because religion taught me, you don't run from it, you stay in it, you stick with it, you take it, you know, and a lot of that is what kept me there.
Yes.
But nobody could ever give me the how to. No one could ever point out, you know, to me like, if you went through this, then how do you get from your point A to your point B?
Right.
It was always just pray. And I said, sometimes ain't that much praying in the world.
Right.
I need to hear some explicit instructions on what I need to do, because if I don't, between the two of us, somebody is going to really get seriously hurt.
Correct. And that's what I love about you, because, you know, we define ourselves as our relations, and our relationship now have moved forward. And the reason why that we transition from relations to relationship is because you follow instructions. You know, God has defined us as a Ruth and a Naomi.
He has.
And Ruth followed Naomi's instructions to get to her king, to get to her Boaz. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't, oh, you know, I just love this man, help me. You know, she submitted herself. Daughter of Sarah, you got to submit yourself to the will of God for your life, and don't be afraid. And like you say, a lot of women, and yeah, I went to your home, and I'll go if people want to follow instructions. But don't think I'm going to go all willy-nilly. I got to be with the Lord. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because some people are just malicious, you know, but you wanted it.
I did.
And the first thing of understanding that you wanted it is because you followed instruction A. And then you followed instruction B. And instruction A was just be still. Be quiet. Now that's hard.
It is.
When you've been betrayed and they steadily in your face and they steadily yapping. But I understand that because it's breaking you where?
On the inside.
On the inside. See, we always like to look at what they did, but now God is saying for me to look at me. It's been done. I can't keep going that way, but I got to look at me. You know, and so you followed those instructions, and you did A, and then you did B, but in between A and B, it was a process, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. You know, I want to say to, even for those that are listening, because I know that everybody won't understand the Ruth and Naomi experience. And when you're talking about following instructions, because I know most people here, you know, she told her to leave her husband. No, those were not my instructions, but it was my decision ultimately. But at the same time, following those instructions helped me to come back to myself, where in which I was losing me, where it had got to the point where I had lost so much of me, I didn't know whether I was coming or going. But once I got into a stabilized place, and I could not get there on my own, I don't care what I tried, I don't care what I said, and I'm telling you, I did 41,612 prayers. Nothing was working until God has sent someone. But even when God sent, I still had to accept. I still had to yield. I still had to listen. You know, to a person of the same sex that did the betrayal as well. But He sent another woman to restore what another woman broke down. And in my following those instructions, it wasn't the instructions to leave him. It was the instructions to come back and find me.
And find you. And I would never tell anybody what to do. Because first of all, can't nobody tell me what to do.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But could I, and that's why it's being what I wanted, being what I desired, and being that is what God made me to be. See, he let me experience a rejection from other leaders because He was making me for such a time as this. So nobody can tell me what to do. You know what I'm saying? But if you guide me, and that's what the Holy Spirit does, He leads you and guides you into truth. That's a decision that you have to make. But if you understand that if you follow those instructions, then other things will take place that will cause you to make a decision. And so one more time, He began to attack you.
He did.
And following those instructions.
Woo, so much so that even as I followed those instructions, and it being my decision to do so, because I want to make it perfectly clear. I had to come out of my own head because nothing looked the way that I thought it was going to look. In all actuality, when you came in and when you began to speak, I came to you really to assist me in mending what was broken. Never imagining that it would, soon give me a release. And but nonetheless, it was still my decision. And even in my following instructions, the last fight that I was talking about, that final fight, a demon rose up, and I kid you not, the last words were, did the better tell you that I was going to do this?
And he had never been it.
In that moment, I said, yeah, I'm done. I'm so done. For number one, love doesn't feel that way. Regard is definitely not there. But betrayal, it was high in the house that day. even in looking back on it, again, like I said before, even as you continue to speak to me, I had to wrap my mind around, what is this woman talking about? I'm going through this with somebody. I said, well, who? Who is it?
Yeah, I said that to
me. So I can go and ask this. I'm like, now look, now you better listen to what I'm trying to tell you, because you know what I went through to get to you. But nonetheless, going through this process, as difficult as it may be, and I don't even want to keep it on just the subject of me and my ex-husband, because the betrayal, it extended back so far. But it's all a part of what makes me the relational person that I am today. You know, that we're talking about betrayal in a relationship between mother and daughter. You know, having come from that childhood abuse, and you know, and watching my mother choose that stepfather over me, and I'm asking some of the same questions, like, why you staying? Why you dealing with the stuff that you're dealing with? And her shutting down and not wanting to talk, or her accepting the very things that she accepted. I watched a powerful woman get broken down, to the last part of simple, it to the point where she didn't even have a voice anymore. It just became whatever he wanted, whatever it was. And I remember watching her go through the things that she went through. And I'm just like, and I thought I was going to lose my mother at one point. But I'm like, you know what, it can't be me. But I remember asking God, you know, why the betrayal? Why can't my mom, you know, not so much as do it for me, but I'm like, look, Mom, just look at what's going on. Look at what's taking place. Something is going to happen to all of us if one of us doesn't make a decision.
But see, that's why God doesn't want us to be judgmental, because somebody, they look at me, or they look at you, and they say, what possessed you to stay with this man after he has done all these things? But you got to know when God releases you, in what way, and enough is enough. And that's why I'm just so, I mean, man, thank God for it. And I just decree in Jesus' name, you all, let me tell you this, Rekindling the Flame is going to be one of the most powerful ministries because of your process and because of what you have gone through. So many women, like unto yourself, so many women that you have no idea. But if you've been hurt and if you've been betrayed, I want to provoke you, I want to challenge you to reach out to Dunamis Woman, because Kamisha Baird has been built up just for you. I remember those days. But the best is yet to come. If we could just reach out to someone, because we cannot rid ourselves, and that will be you. I am Dee Collins. Excuse me. Camera face back on. I am Pastor D, and I know that God has greatness on the inside of you. Because every woman has been inflicted by some type of pain. That your power, that dunamis power, may come forth and make a difference in someone else's life. I appreciate how people esteem me, but it's not about me. It's about you.